Are you planning a trip to Berlin or just curious about the city? Well, this weekend my brothers were visiting, so I planned 3 perfect days for them and for you if you're planning a trip soon. In this video, I'll be describing a complete and stress-free itinerary that I put together with must-visit locations, historical insights, food, drinks, and even some personal recommendations to make the most out of this city, of course on a budget. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and let's get started. I decided to begin the trip by showing my brothers something curious that people don't normally see when visiting Berlin. This is my district, Neukölln. Neukölln is one of the most diverse districts in Berlin with a mix of cultures and ethnicities. In my area in particular, there's a huge Turkish population, so if you walk in the streets, you will see most of the shop signs written in Arabic, Turkish markets, plenty of baklava shops, huge kebabs on every corner, hundreds of chickens roasting behind large windows, a lot of shisha in the evenings, and the general feeling of walking through the streets of Istanbul. But the biting cold at our fingertips remind us that we are in Berlin, and after this random start we take the metro to go to Alexanderplatz, where we're gonna tour the main historical landmarks in the center of the city. If you have to meet someone in Berlin, you're probably gonna meet in Alexanderplatz. Platz in German means square, and Alexanderplatz in Berlin is a big public square with really good public transportation, surrounded by shopping malls, landmarks like the Fernsehturm, the TV tower, the Rotes Rathaus, and the popular world clock that shows the time in different cities around the world. We walked to the Rotes Rathaus, which means Red City Hall, a building from the 1869. For me, this is one of the most beautiful buildings in Berlin because in the cold and dark winter months, the red bricks give a lot of color and warmth to the city. Across the park, we enter the church Marienkirche with a warm coffee in our cold hands. One thing you should know about coffee in Germany is that it is quite expensive compared to Spain and generally not so good. So we tried to find a cheap one and my brother pretended to be cool with it, but deep inside he was thinking that we should have paid the €4. And about Marienkirche, let me tell you that it is a nice church to visit for free with a big organ, and it has a famous fresco called Totentanz, which means Dance of the Dead. Crossing the square again, we make a short visit to Nikolaiviertel, a beautiful little quarter in the center. In this quarter, there's the oldest church in Berlin, Nikolaikirche, surrounded by nice buildings in a German traditional architecture that were reconstructed after the Second World War to recreate the historical atmosphere of old Berlin. Then we cross the Spree River through the Rathausbrücke, the Rathaus Bridge, and we take some photos by the Music University. We arrive at the Berliner Schloss or Berlin Palace, which is being reconstructed and interconnected to the Humboldt Forum, an exhibition center of art, culture, and science. Both of them are free to visit, free to go to the restroom, and you can even go up to the rooftop to catch a view of the city. We get out of the Berliner Schloss to enter the Museum Island, which is a collection of 5 important museums, each one in a distinctive building located in the heart of Berlin and considered a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We enter the Museum Island walking through a public park called Lustgarten, which means pleasure garden. This park has been a site for cultural and political events throughout the history, but probably remembered as a site used for rallies during the Nazi era. Behind it, we can see the Berliner Dom and the Altes Museum, part of the Museum Island. In front of it, there's a huge granite bowl that weighs approximately 75 tons, and it is the largest bowl carved out of a single stone that exists. Fact.
Es el cuenco más grande del mundo hecho de una sola piedra. Per això és famós.
We cross the beautiful Schlossbrücke, Palace Bridge, and we start walking through the most famous boulevard called Unter den Linden that goes from this bridge passing through the historical district of Mitte until the Brandenburg Gate. But we're not gonna walk all the way yet. Instead, we stop for a quick glühwein to warm up our hands and our hearts. I'm gonna take this opportunity to mention that for glühwein, same as for coffee, prices in Germany are through the roof. In Christmas markets, you generally pay €5 for a cup of glühwein plus €5 more for the cup itself, which you can get back if you're returning. But in this little street place, they had the reasonable price of 2.5 euro per cup, which is nice and still does the job of warming up, right? As we drink, we walk next to the German Historical Museum, the Crown Prince Palace and the Opera. And finally we reach Pebbleplatz. And you might know which event took place in the square during the Nazi regime. Yes, the book burning. So as a reminder of the 20,000 books that were burned in May 1933, we can now see a memorial in the middle of the square consisting of underground empty bookshelves that have space for around 20,000 books, the same amount of books that were burned. We continue walking and we pass by the Deutscher Dorm and the Französischer Dorm, facing each other, the French one a meter taller just because, and we continue walking, but in the meantime let me tell you a little fun fact about this guy here. This is not just a traffic light, this is the Ampelmännchen or Little Traffic Light Man, which was first introduced in East Germany and now it's become an iconic symbol of Berlin, so you can find Ampelmann themed stores and cafes around the city. Isn't it cute? Our last stop before the lunch is Checkpoint Charlie, which was the border crossing point between East and West Berlin during the division of the city, and it is a symbol of the Cold War. I thought it was called Charlie for this guy here, but no, it seems that it's just the good-looking soldier. The name Charlie comes from the third letter of the military phonetic alphabet C of Charlie. And here we can see the famous sign that reads, "You're now leaving the American sector," which marked the boundary between East and West and now is a reminder of the divided city. For lunch, we were thinking about the typical currywurst, but then we found a huge discount on the 4-cup, and we ended up in a Vietnamese at Checkpoint Charlie, which was really good. Honestly, German food is almost non-existent here, so for me, Asian is the way to go. After lunch, it is already getting dark, typical in Berlin, so we ran up to the memorial to see it with a little bit of light, but on the way we stopped in the Berlin Mall, a very stylish and big mall in the center. Finally, we arrive at the Jewish Memorial, the powerful tribute to the victims of the Holocaust. As we enter the memorial, we observe the impactful arrangement of concrete slabs, also known as stelae. The design is deliberate, creating a maze-like atmosphere that evokes a sense of disorientation and isolation, and the different heights of the slabs create an undulating landscape which symbolizes the unpredictability and horror of the Holocaust. The last and probably the most known historical landmark that we visit is the Brandenburg Gate, which was built in the 18th century as a symbol of peace, then became a symbol of division during the Cold War, and today it stands as a symbol of reunification and freedom. We want to finish the day on top of the Reichstag building, but it is fully booked, so we take tickets for another day, which, by the way, it's free. Then we have some hot chocolate from a little Christmas market style place. And we head to a museum nearby, the Topography of Terror. I really recommend this museum because, first of all, it's free, but also because it is a really clear and easy to follow chronicle of the rise of the Nazi Party, the mechanisms of terror and the scope of their atrocities, with photographs and documents that help understanding the whole situation. We end this busy day having a nice Korean barbecue since my brother just came from Korea, and as I said, Asian food here is the best. And the restaurant is in Kreuzberg, which is the coolest district in Berlin, with an alternative vibe, live performances and a lot of nightlife. So we just walk out of the restaurant, make a quick visit to a random Späti, which are the late-buy shops here. This one was funny because it was called Spätify. I make them try the Berliner Luft, a tasty typical shot here, and we end up in a piano jazz performance. The second day we wake up, we eat some Dunkin' Donuts from Too Good To Go that we picked up the previous night, and we head to the East Side Gallery. So, after the fall of the wall in 1989, some parts of it became a canvas for paintings, and the East Side Gallery consists of 1.3 kilometers of wall adorned with more than 100 murals, which means more than 100 opportunities for cool funny photos or for deep reflection and contemplation of the art. Then we take the metro to do the most typical thing on a Sunday in Berlin: go to a flea market. We check the one at Mauer Park, which is huge, and I get a pair of earmuffs and the sun shows up for a minute and it's lovely. We're also surprised to discover a nail with an amazing variety of food trucks. It is truly difficult to choose what to eat, so we get a bit of everything, but of course mostly Asian again. We finished this chill Sunday laughing our asses off in a stand-up comedy by East West Berlin in a peculiar bar in Neukölln. There are so many cool things to do in this city. The third day is a working day for me, but while I'm in the office, they finally get to visit the Reichstag building and witness a big snowfall in the top. And of course they try the Mustafa Gemüse kebab, this famous kebab in Berlin that has long lines at all times of the day. I'd like to show you more photos about that, but it seems to be so messy to eat that you cannot take photos at the same time. Finally, as an overview of the trip, I'd say that although we visited so much and we didn't stop, we only saw a tiny bit of what this city has to offer. Berlin is huge. There are so many museums, cultural places, lakes, parks, and so many things to do that it's impossible to experience it all in a single trip. But I'm really proud of the itinerary that we followed, and I think my brothers went back home really happy about the experience. So, if you're willing to visit Berlin, I'd recommend you to select the things that you're mostly interested in and don't try to squeeze a lot or you'll end up stressing too much and not enjoying the cool atmosphere of this city. And finally, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to reply them in the comments.